Alright, so this video is explaining a week 3 assignment, the case study. Well, let's talk about what a case study is. Case studies are used by architects to research and be the proof for their concepts and designs, when needed to justify their design choices. Basically what that means is if you've never designed anything before, or designed something in particular before, like a bowling alley or an airport, architects and engineers came up with, and it's not just this career field. Other career fields use case studies as well to study what has been done before, and not just what has been done successfully, but sometimes what has failed. But in this part, we are going to go ahead and study what has been done successfully. And so this is something that you shouldn't really put off and do all in one night or several nights. This has been done. We've been doing this in class together and creating these slides to make sure that everyone understands what's what in terms of knowing how to design what we're going to design. We're going to design a tiny home, or not a tiny home, an apartment above a garage, an existing garage. And this is part of that research that we need before we can actually start designing. And not to say that you have to do a case study every single time for the rest of your life when you're an architect. You don't. This is just for, like I said, those that don't know how to design any one particular thing. You can research and figure out how to design anything using a case study. And that's basically the process I'm going to show you. So how to start. Architects typically start with the occupancy type of the structure they are about to design. And the occupancy structure, or the occupancy type, is pretty much from the building code itself. The building code is, for those who don't know, is a set of rules and standards that architects are held accountable to, and not just architects, but engineers and general contractors. You can see that throughout this design process that if we don't hold people accountable to design standards and engineering standards, as well as building standards in construction, people are going to do whatever they want, and it's going to be chaotic. Imagine if there was no rules or laws for driving. People are going to misinterpret red light, what a red light is, what a yellow light is, what a green light is. It's going to mean something different to them. And so this is why we have standards. So there's no confusion whatsoever about what's what. And we all have to abide by these rules. Not to say that you're not free to design what you want to design. You have about 15% of your entire project is your freedom to design what you want to design. The rest of the project, 85% of it, is bound by building codes, city submittals and approvals, and clients' wants and needs, and other factors. Could be like the site itself, where the site could influence how you design. Imagine if your house or the site was near the beach, and the water is over here and the property is here. And if you're going to design a house in this area, on this side, you can imagine the client is probably gonna want a lot of windows to look out into the ocean. Who wouldn't? Why wouldn't? It's beachfront property. I mean, millions of dollars they probably spent on this. And if you put a wall up to block this view inside their house, I'm sure they'd be very upset. I'd be. So you can see how the surrounding area can influence how you design, because it makes logical sense to put windows on this side so you can see the amazing waves and the sun setting or rising, depending on which coast you're at. But if you're on the west coast, the sun's going to be setting. You can see the amazing sunsets into the Pacific Ocean and how beautiful it is. And why wouldn't you want to see that every evening? So it just makes logical sense to put windows on this side to make sure that everyone in the house can see this amazing view. Some things to consider when you are designing is the human experience, especially when you have certain parts of a home that require certain things. Certain parts of the homes have certain functions. Certain functions may require privacy. Certain functions are more public. Other functions are circulatory, where there's circulation of traffic going through the house. And when I'm talking about traffic, I'm talking about just people walking through the house from one space to another. And this doesn't apply to houses, this applies to public spaces as well. There's parts of public buildings where you need privacy. There's part of public buildings where it's very public and there's still circulation that's needed. Imagine walking into a store to go buy groceries. Think about the different pathways that are available to go up and down the grocery store that has been designed. Now, an architect may not have designed the shelves, but they purposely put them in a particular location, or they put the bathroom in a particular location that's more private. You might have to walk down a hall, and that hall is part of that circulation, that movement of, or that space where movement happens, where you go from one space to another. And so, and so pro tip, a lot of architects use a lot of words that are unfamiliar to the average person. So if you don't know what something is, look it up. It's really easy to just say, into your phone, hey Siri, look this up, or hey Alexa, look this up, or whatever name your phone is called. What does this mean, or what's this word mean? So it's not like you have to jump into your car and drive to the library to find out what these words are, like they used to do back in the day. So do yourself a favor. The quicker you get to know the terminology and the different words that are involved in architecture and construction and engineering, if this is a path that you plan on choosing for the rest of your life, the more you know, the quicker you learn these, the better. And so there will come a time where it'll all make sense. And you're like, oh, okay, I get it. And I tell this to my college students all the time as well. So it's not just you. So part of the case study is finding articles that have successful designs and particular outcomes and that you may want in your designs. I know this says offices, but we're going to design an apartment, so I'll change that to apartments. So pro tip, good design captures feelings. Architecture is a art form, but instead of using paintbrushes and pencils as our medium, we're using construction materials. And all great works of art evoke emotion. So you think about all the spaces that you've ever walked into, and you had this amazing feeling just walking into a space. I've walked into some pretty amazing cathedrals where, I don't know, for whatever reason, I was compelled to confess my sins. Like it was just one of those feelings that you get where you just like, wow, this is God's house. It's just, these are the things that just was going on in my head. Or when you walk into a museum and you check out all the amazing artwork, you're like, whoa, I need to behave. This is cool stuff. Like, or if you ever gone to like a fancy grand hotel and they had an amazing lobby, and you're just like, wow, this is nuts. And if you ever been to Las Vegas, you've had that experience, I'm sure. If you look up and look around, and I know when I teach architecture, a lot of my students tell me they'd never looked up before and realize what's going on. And so it's amazing to see the transition from someone that just took for granted what has been built and designed and just, walked in and just like, I need to get this, I need to get that, and I'm going to get out. And not really appreciated all that effort that it took to create that space, that building, that structure. And so, at the very least, I hope every one of you will get more of appreciation of what these architects and engineers and general contractors do for us in creating safe environments where we can stay inside and be warm and be cool in the summer, in different parts of the world. I don't know, I get extra hype when I talk about stuff like this because, this is architecture and engineering is my jam. And I love architecture. Basically what we'll do is we'll find different things that we like about these different articles, and we'll try and create a particular emotion because we are emotional creatures. The most successful architects know this and purposely design for it. And I can show you a little bit of that when we're going through this case study. So in this example, if I'm starting a design, I'll start by sketching ideas using bubble diagrams, and I'll tell you all about that. We'll get to that in a bit later in the semester. But I'll sketch bubble diagrams and word associations. This is basically the architect's rough draft of a design. If you ever had an essay due, you'll always had that first draft, the rough draft, and then you polished it up, and then you submitted that as your assignment. And so, and then I showed this video on how to think like an architect, and so I'll show you exactly where that video. Please watch that video. This is where it's at. So, in the week 3 folder right here, how to think like an architect. Watch this video. This architect's amazing, and when he describes how he designed this house, him and his team designed his house, and if you look at the sketches without any audio, you would think this guy's drawing chicken scratches, but that's how architecture is. It's you draw something real quick to plan something out real quick, and then you turn it into something amazing and something beautiful. Because you're not in that rough draft stage. You're just, it's a preliminary plan. When I mean preliminary, it's just beginning stages where you're throwing down ideas. And in fact, let me show you a little bit about bubble diagrams. So a bubble diagram, like, it'll be like this. Okay, this space right here is the kitchen, and I'll put the letter K for kitchen. And this space right here, this will be the private areas. We'll put the bedrooms, and maybe a bathroom. The end of the hallway, there's a hallway down here, and maybe there's a master bedroom here. That master bedroom will have a bathroom as well, so I'll put the letter B for bathroom, and then I'll put the letter B, D for bed rooms, and this is how you start to form the ideas really, really quickly. And not to say that, I'm not already thinking about this three-dimensionally. I am. Some of you might have the capability of doing that. Some of you might not, and that's okay. It took me a little bit to develop that, but once I developed that, I'm able to think about this three-dimensionally. We'll put this as the dining room. So I'll put DN for dining, and then we'll put this right here. This will be the living room. And eventually this will become a floor plan. But you can see how I can separate the public areas and the private areas. And I know I'll have one bathroom here, but this is a master bedroom. I probably should put the letter M. So master bedroom. There'll be another bathroom in the master bedroom. And so it'll probably be close to the other bathroom. So anyway, you don't really get too detailed. You just kind of throw these ideas down and like, okay, well, maybe the dining room shouldn't be right here. Maybe the kitchen should be here and the dining room should be over here. So, you draw another one of these real quick. You saw how quickly I did that, and I did this with a mouse, so I'm even quicker when I have a pencil and paper in my hand. And so that's bubble diagrams in a nutshell. The architects use this to draw real quickly. This gentleman does a great job, fantastic job of showing how he does this. So go ahead and watch that video, and we'll get back into the case study. And so think of putting this first part of the case study together as a vision board for your design concept before you actually start beginning to design. We're not going to start doing a bubble diagram just yet. Now you're welcome to look at apartments on the internet so you can get ideas. That's fine. You can throw that in your case study. But I already put some there. So we'll just for this assignment, let's just use what we have so far. But if we have time to do another project, then you're welcome to use whatever you want. But let's just get through this so we can all learn together how to do this properly. And okay, so some things that we need to do before we actually, as like a vision board. So the beauty about going over other successful designs is sometimes you come across things that you would have never thought of before. Because you don't know what you don't know. And if you've never really studied architecture before, there's a lot of things that students really don't know. I know when I first started, I was like, who are all the architects? And then I just started researching. So sometimes you come up with ideas and from refining what's already been done and changing things a little bit from the other designs that you saw, or sometimes you can come up with something completely new. Architects don't only have to design to consider, they have to consider the elements as well. So like weather, traffic, sun paths, seismic activities, and many other things. So we'll go over a few of these just so you can get a taste of what architects really have to study before they really start designing. This is the preliminary portion of the design process, and it's all being documented, so nothing is forgotten, and that's why we are doing the case study. So it's all documented. We can go back to it and like, hey, these are our notes. What did we say we liked? Because when you're designing, typically you don't want to forget something. There's always that one idea that you have, and then you're like, oh, I'll write it down later, and then later comes, and you're like, ooh, what was that idea? So, this is why we write things down, because it doesn't go away when you write them down. So, the first thing we're going to do in a case study is when we look at a case study, we're going to credit the architects. And the case studies are I'll put up, actually I put up right here. So case study article number 1, that's the first case study we looked at. And that is this one. So we went over this one, read over the article and go through it, and we'll talk about what we talked about in class in the case study and created these slides. And so this is the first slide. Second slide, this discusses the architect, this part right here. So the architects, the background, history, concepts of the project, and then site analysis. So this week we're going to get into that. And so we got the architect design concept. So this is Julius Ralph Davidson house that we are studying, and that is this article here. And basically this was a post-World War II design for the returning soldier. Affordability was addressed in the redesign because the first design wasn't really a viable solution for these soldiers because of affordability, and they just really didn't quite like them. So it was redesigned. And so this duplex house allowed for multiple families to live on the same property. And that's all a duplex is. It's just means two. And there's like quadplex. Quad means four. And so a triplex. All on one property. And so duplex means, you have basically two families living on one property. And so, and you'll see when we go into the floor plan. So when you go ahead and make this slide, go ahead and pause the video and make this slide. And so anyway, David said when he designed this, he imagined women being part of the workforce and designed the kitchen for quick meals. This is after World War II. And you can kind of infer how he was thinking, how women would not go back into the kitchen and do what they domestically did before the war. Before the war, a lot of women, they were just stay-at-home moms and, cook amazing meals every single meal, keep the house clean, kids fed, and make sure they did their homework, all these motherly, beautiful things. But the war came. All the men were shipped out. Women took on the responsibilities of manufacturing in support of that war. They were building airplanes, tanks, bombs, munitions, everything to support the war. You had things like Rosie the Riveter. So this is Rosie the Riveter. This is a very famous picture. I don't know why that came up. Very iconic picture to get women to work in support of the war. And there's tons and tons of. This is the actual woman that posed for this. And I'm not sure if she actually worked in a factory. She may have. I really haven't read up on her, but yeah. So there's other pictures of women trying to basically recreate this iconic picture, and you can see, there's many other pictures that came up out of that particular era. And so the reason why I bring this up is because look at how empowered this woman feels, working, earning her own money, being independent, and not being forced to depend on a man for a life that she wants. And so it's a very, very powerful feeling when you can make your own money and be able to provide for yourself, and not just for yourself, for your children as well. And these women were very, very proud, and we should be proud of them for doing that. They really, really helped us out during that effort. But back to Davidson. Davidson, imagine this, because, again, that feeling that these women got, stuff like that were coming out at, during the war. You got to remember, architects design for the human experience. And when they design for the human experience, they look at the human experience that's going on around the current times that they're in. And during that current time that he was in, he realized that these women were being empowered to be independent, to not necessarily depend on a man, to be able to provide for themselves. And that's how he was able to foresee women being part of the workforce. And so if a mother's being part of the workforce, she doesn't have time to make these amazing, elaborate meals. And that's why he designed the kitchen in such a way for quick meals. And this was one of the first experimental open floor plans where, mom could be in the kitchen preparing a meal. The kids could be here, maybe doing their homework. And, she could still have a conversation and still have an eye on them and to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so you can see how he created this for this independent woman to be multitasking and to be able to still bond with her children. And so you can see how this design really, I don't want to say shaped society, but it really got people thinking about familial responsibilities, and this was a response, an architectural response to that. And you can see how you can design for social needs, and this was a social need.
a need for a woman to feel more independent, more fulfillment with her life, and having value outside of just being a mom and a housewife. Not saying that's a bad thing. Some women love being a housewife and a mom and love doing those things, and bless their hearts for doing that. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's other women that they just wanted a little bit more, and this gentleman designed for those women. Not to say that he only specifically designed this house for them. There was other factors that were involved, and so we'll take a look at that in the next slide. And here you can see the floor plan, and right here, this is the main house, and you can see that open concept. I labeled that right here, open concept. And this was one of the first duplexes in Southern California. I'm sure there might have been more, but this is one of the first ones that was like highlighted. And so here is another almost like a studio apartment right here. So he bought this house, got a family going. His wife's working, he's working. This was for that soldier returning back from war. And, maybe he can't afford it entirely, or, maybe he wants to rent this out to his buddy that's returning from war, so, he can get back up on his feet and, buy his own place. Or whatever the case may be. This was in another space for a different family. And it could have been just a family of one or two. I see 2 beds right here. So, really, really small, really, really quaint, and just like a separate quarters for someone just to come and go. Go to work and lie their head down. Anyway, what we could say about the design factors of this Julia Frost Davidson house is that, it was one of the first duplexes in Southern California. It was one of the first open concept designs. The design was influenced by women's movement into the workforce, because of that experience they had during the war and in support of that war, going into these factories and actually building stuff. So you can see how the design was also influenced by the need for the family to bond with the matriarch while she prepared, the family meal. And that's pretty much all we got. And so go ahead and take a look at everything. Come up with these slides. You don't need to turn anything yet, but don't let this work pile up. Get it done as soon as possible, and we're going to start adding more and more to this. All right, that's all I got.